STEM 32 is going to look at the learning environment, and we're going to be concentrating on the nature of the skill as well as the performance elements. So nature of the skill and the performance elements, and the next STEM will cover the last two dot points here. So first of all, when talking about the nature of the skill, it's actually the complexity of a skill is to be learned is obviously important in the acquisition of the skill. Movement tasks may be classified according to the different criteria. The stability of the environment becomes open or closed. The precision of the movement, gross or fine. The distinctiveness of the beginning and end points, continuous, serial or discrete. And the timing, externally paced or self-paced. And we're going to go through each of these now. First of all, open and closed skills. An open skill in a sport is where the surrounding environment is constantly changing and is unpredictable. This can create doubt within an athlete because they are not in control of everything around them. Nearly all sports where an athlete has to play against an opponent involve open skills. So, for example, the game of rugby league. It's an open skill, catching and passing, because you don't know when you're going to get tackled. You've got defenders coming at you. Experienced or elite athletes have the ability to deal with the unstable environments as they have their vast experience and the background knowledge to deal with this and any issues that arise. So open skills is where the environment is constantly changing. A closed skill normally occurs where the environment is predictable. There is time for the athlete to think and plan what to do without the same pressure as an open skill. The athlete also knows in advance the activity, the wider environment, and how they're going to perform within it. So there's no varying parameters in this performance. It's all straightforward. The athlete knows exactly what it's going to do. So open, it's unpredictable. Closed, it's predictable. So we look on the left-hand side here. We got the picture of the weightlifter. This is a closed skill because the athlete goes out. They know they're going to just have to pick up the weight. They know how heavy it is. There is nothing that's going to impact on their performance they don't already know about. We're on the right-hand side where we have the person who's batting here. So if someone facing a pitcher, because they don't know where the ball's going to be pitched, they can't assume where it's going to go. So it's an open skill. Closed, it's predictable. Open, unpredictable. And all I want you to do here is on this page, draw up this table in your book. And I've given you some examples of open skills, and I've given you some examples of closed skills. And I want you to come up with 3 of your own for each. And that's all we're doing for that page there. We then go to gross and fine motor skills. So gross motor skills involve the use of large muscle groups, whereas fine motor skills involve movements using smaller muscle groups. For example, in cricket, spin bowling is a gross motor skill, yet it also involves fine motor action of the hand on the ball. So the actual whole movement is because there's large muscle groups being involved in bowling, therefore it's going to be gross. But the fine parts of that skill would be the actual movements of the fingers on the ball, trying when he's bowling. So that's the example of your fine motor. So again, fine motor skills, we draw this table up in our book, and gross motor skills with a couple of examples. And you feel free to add a couple of your own if you like. The next one we have is looking at discrete, serial, and continuous skills. So a discrete skill is where the movement has a definite beginning and end. They are normally single skills such as throwing a ball. A continuous skill is one that has no real beginning or end but is repeated over and over, such as swimming or running. A serial skill requires a number of separate skills to be performed in sequence to achieve the set movement required. So an example would be the javelin. So when there's a javelin throw, there's a run-up, there's a release, and there's a follow-through. They're all joined together into one whole performance. So you'll find that a serial skill is a combination of a number of different skills. All right, but in continuous, the concern we have about continuous skills is that, if we talk about swimming, so that's just me going for a swim in the pool, that's going to be a continuous skill. But if I'm in a swimming race and it's a competition race and it's 50 metres, there is a definite beginning and there's a definite end. So we need to be careful how we explain continuous and discrete. So most times in competition, for these sort of events, swimming or running, they're going to be discrete. But just going out on my own and having a swim or going for a run, they could be continuous because we're not really sure when they're going to finish. Same as we've done with the previous areas, we've got discrete, continuous and serial. And I want you to include a couple of examples of your own under each. So draw this up in your book. So you'll have 6 for each. Just an example here. Pole vaulting requires the use of serial motor skills. So that's a combination of other discrete skills into the one movement. And also swimming is an example of a continuous skill. And we spoke about the competition phase there in terms of the length, which would make it discrete. The next one we have is self-paced and externally paced. When an athlete can execute the movement at a desired pace and method, movements are said to be self-paced. For example, a golfer places the tee and ball where the golfer chooses, approaches the ball when ready to do so, and takes a number of practice swings. Then when he's ready, plays his shot. That's self-paced. He's dictating the speed at which the action is occurring. In contrast to this, most to closed skills, open skills are externally paced. This means that they are initiated by actions from an external source or stimulus. An example of this could be, if I'm playing cricket and I'm the batsman, I can't hit the ball until it's bowled to me. So the pace of this skill, which I'm about to perform in terms of batting, is based off externally being performed by someone else. So I can't do my skill until the ball's bowled. So that's externally paced, where someone else is dictating what's happening. Let's look at here the performance elements. We're going to move to the second dot point now of this STEM. We've got decision making, we've got strategic, and we've got tactical development. So this with decision making skills. It talks about here in a game setting, players need to assess their own strengths and weaknesses, and also their opponent's strengths and weaknesses in the situation of the game. The ability to do this and these factors and to make a decision is what separates different players with different skill levels. Coaches need to ensure the opportunity is available for individuals and teams to practice in game-like settings so that the individual can hasten the decision-making process. So what they can do is, at training, put them in a situation where they can perform game-like situations or game-like drills, which will allow them to then make their decisions. And I've just given an example here. In rugby league, a player may try to throw a long pass to winger in the hope that the winger will score a try, but this increases the risk of an intercept. So it's practicing the correct thing that they need to do. And I've got a couple of examples in our resources part here of this STEM that I'll refer and show you a bit later. Strategic and tactical development. This talks about the tactics associated with gameplay are similar in many sports. So in soccer, AFL, movements into space, leading towards the ball, marking a player, moving into position, they're all very, very common. So individuals can learn the tactics of one game and then apply these across a range of similar sports. Same with soccer, same with football, same with rugby union, same with AFL, as mentioned up the top here, same with hockey. The earlier an individual engages in learning the tactical aspects of the game, the more effective the learning of the aspect will be. This process requires the coach to introduce skills into game-like situations rather than static. So again, maybe bring in a defender, maybe bring in a couple of tackles, bring in a ruck, bring in a maul. By implementing skills where players can practice game-like situations in their drills, the strategies and tactics required will be learned and enhanced to allow for better decisions to be made during competition. So an example, two players passing a soccer ball to each other with a defender in the middle promotes strategic and tactics to get the ball past the defender just like in a game. So compare this approach to that of having two players learning to pass by passing the ball backwards and forwards between hats with no opposition. As a result of this, there is no tactical knowledge being learned in the process of what they're doing. They're just standing there. They don't have to think. They just kick the ball to each other. It's very simple. But at the top here, when we bring in a defender between the two players, they now need to start talking about strategies and tactics of how they can get the ball past him. So not only are they practicing the skill, but they're also enhancing strategic and tactical development based on the game. Down here, we just talked about a couple of the benefits that are a result of a tactical approach, especially to training. So we can have a look at those. It allows individuals to understand the complete requirements of the skill, decision-making skills. It enhances motivation and improves team coordination. And that's the end of STEM 32.